Hi there, this is Jen, and thanks so much for joining me today. Today I am participating in the card hopping event for the month of May. This month is friendship, and the techniques are either gel plate and brayer or just a brayer. And there'll be a link below for the next person in the hop. I hope you can hop on all of the links. It's a fairly small hop, and there is a lot of fantastic ideas, and these ladies create some amazing projects. So I hope you can join us all. So I thought I would do just the brayer today. I will not be using a gel plate, but I will be using a brayer. And I have a large brayer, a medium brayer, and then a smaller brayer. The smaller one, I believe, is a Ranger brayer. It's the only one among these three that cannot be removed, or I haven't found a way to be able to remove it from its handle. However, the medium one, which is kind of that maroon color, is a Speedball, and then the black handled one, I want to say it's Michael's, but I am not positive. It might not be. I might have got it from Amazon. But the good thing about the medium one and the large one is that they can be removed from their handles, which is really great because you can do some different techniques with texture by adding some things to those rollers, and I'm going to show you one of those techniques in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with the smallest brayer, and I am using these Lavinia Elements inks, and I'm using the Mermaid first, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the Blue Lagoon. And I've set a piece of scratch paper off to the side, and so when you're putting the brayer on the ink, you don't want to just flatly roll it. You want to kind of pick it up and roll, pick it up and roll, so that the entire brayer gets filled with ink. And then I am just wiping some of that off by rolling it onto a piece of scratch paper, and then starting kind of like when you ink blend, you start off the card and then move up onto the card. This is kind of the same with this. And I went ahead and like I said, I did the Mermaid first, and then I'm doing the Blue Lagoon. But it's basically, it just gives a really pretty blend. If you don't like the kind of marks in the paper, I like it because I think it gives it some cool texture. But if you don't like that, you can try just putting the ink in the middle of the brayer and not all the way to the edges, and that might eliminate some of those kind of marks from the edge of the roller. For this next card, I am grabbing some Distressed Oxides and Card Pumpkin and Mustard Seed, and I'm just inking that up mainly in the middle. I'm trying to avoid the edges, so I'm just putting that ink in the middle, and then I'm taking my water bottle and spraying that down, and it creates this really cool streaky effect. I really love the way this looks, and it's just, these backgrounds are so quick and they are so super easy, not complicated at all, and all I'm doing is using a brayer along with whatever medium I'm using to color with. So it is so easy, and if you don't have a gel plate but you have some brayers, then this is perfect. I wasn't quite sure exactly what I was going to create, and I had to watch some tutorials to kind of get some different ideas of things to do with the brayer, and there's just lots of great information out there on how to use only a brayer with no gel plate. So for this next card, I have taken the brayer off of the handle, and I am just grabbing some rubber bands and putting those randomly on the brayer, and then I'll attach that back to its handle. And then I'm going to grab some wilted violet first and run the brayer through that ink, and it's going to leave these cool little marks. I made several panels using this technique. This one is with the Distress Oxides. I also made another panel that I don't think I end up showing, but it's got the carved pumpkin and the mustard seed in kind of a crisscross pattern. And then I'm just experimenting a little bit, and I thought I'd grab some embossing ink. So I created the panel with some brown, I believe it's walnut stain and vintage photo Distress Oxides. And then I ran that brayer with the rubber bands on it through some clear embossing ink. And I'm going to add embossing powder and heat that up. So that's kind of cool. You can make different patterns depending on how you place those rubber bands on your brayer. But I think this kind of looks like a little bit like a wood grain pattern. And then I've created an alcohol ink panel, and I've let this dry so it's almost completely dry so that my ink doesn't move around too much. and I just added some isopropyl alcohol to my craft mat, and the brayer still has rubber bands on it, and so I just ran it through the isopropyl alcohol and just moving that up and down to get kind of that streaky look, which I absolutely love. I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out, but I absolutely love how it turned out. And then I cannot resist using something to make those little bubble marks on the panel. I just absolutely love how that looks on alcohol ink panels, and so I had to do it. So that is that finished one. This probably ends up being one of my favorites. And for my next panel, I am using a piece of watercolor paper. This is the Fabriano, and this is a cold press. It is the roughest watercolor paper that I have, and I wanted it to have that texture from the watercolor paper, and so that is why I chose to use this. So I'm going to use the medium brayer again. I am using some Catherine Pooler inks in, this one is Tiki Torch, I believe, or no. The colors I use are Tiki Torch, Lime Rickey, and Fiesta Blue, and I'm just spraying the color on in different patterns, different directions, and then I'm going to take my water bottle and spritz that panel and get that ink to move around a little bit. And then once the panel dries, it dries a little bit lighter, but you can see a lot of that texture from the watercolor paper, which I think is super cool. But next I am grabbing my silicone mat. I'm going to use that same piece of watercolor paper. And I tried several different things. I put some white acrylic paint down first, and then took a block stamp and stamped that into the acrylic paint, and tried to stamp it onto my watercolor panel. And because the color of the ink's really light and then the paint's white, so it's very light, you couldn't see it very well. Also, the texture of the watercolor paper, it was very difficult to see those flowers. And so what I did was I took a Dylusions kind of a lighter green color of ink, and I added that. And I pulled a print from that and also stamped up some of the flowers in the green ink, which came out a lot better. And then I'm going to add some white again to the top. And this time I'm going to add some different textures. So I'm going to start out with the lovely bubble wrap, which I like to use for a lot of things. And then I'm going to grab this tool. This one's a Vicki Boutin, but if you have cake tools or anything like that that has that texture in it, or a fork or anything like that would work. Anything can create texture pretty much. Then I'm taking a bottle cap and I'm just adding some circles, and then I will roll the bottle cap on the side of it where it has kind of that rough edge. And then I'm going to take my paper and pull a print from that piece. And so for this one, I'm using that same piece of paper that I pulled the print from previously with the flowers on it. And that pulled a little bit. It's really faint, but when I take a clean piece of white paper and put it down, you can see the impressions a lot better. And so I end up using this one right here to create a card out of, but you can see a lot of those impressions really, really good. And for my next card, I'm using the smallest brayer, and I am taking some Distress Oxides in Twisted Citron, Seedless Preserves, and Salvaged Patina. For this one, I'm using a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. With the exception of the watercolor, all of the other cards were made using the Accent White Opaque. So I just put in some blocks of colors down, and I'm going to take my water bottle and spritz that out. And that's pretty much it for this card. And now I'm going to do some really quick assembly of the card. So for this first panel with the blocks, I am using the Sizzix butterfly die. And then I just added a sentiment that says "Don't forget to fly" and a few sequins, and I've popped that panel up over that color. One of my favorites right here, as well as this next one, which is the alcohol ink panel. And I'm using the other portion of the butterfly from that die cut. I'm going to just add those to the card. I have used the sentiment "For a Special Friend," and then I've added some little gems to that card, and that will finish off this one. I think this one's my favorite. I really, really love how that background turned out. I'm super excited about that background. And for this next one, I am using the background that I use the acrylic paints with. This stamp set, that cute little character is a Picket Fence Studios, and it's flying by to say hi. And the little frame is a Whimsy Stamps frame, and all the products that I'm using are going to be listed below. I'm sorry I'm going through this a little quickly, but I didn't want to make the video too long, and so I didn't show the entire assembly of the cards. And so here is that brayered background where I used the water on the brayer, and I've just made a frame and taken a stamp from my stash, and this one just says thank you, and so that one was really easy to do. And then I added a little bit of some twinkles, which are basically some glitter gel from Creative Expressions. And then for this last panel, I kind of messed up on this. I ended up stamping my image, moved when I was stamping it, and so when I stamped it again, it moved a little bit, and that's why it looks a little bit blurry, but I went ahead and stamped those up in black and then added that sentiment, and that will finish off the card. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like it or find it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I probably say this every month, but I absolutely love these hop. These ladies that participate are just amazing. So I hope that you check all of them out. And thanks again. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to spend with me, and I will catch you next time.